If you've ever looked at tomato farming and thought, this thing looks interesting, but how much money do I actually need to start? Then sit down and open your ears, because I actually did it. I put my own money into tomato farming, bought the things I needed, paid workers, bought seeds, fertilizer, chemicals, dealt with watering, transportation, and all those small expenses that you don't really think about when you're sitting at home planning to become a farmer. And when I finally started putting the numbers together, I realized something. The amount of money you think you need to farm tomatoes and the amount you actually spend can be two completely different things. So today, I'm going to open everything up for you. I'm going to show you exactly what I spent on 1 acre of my tomato farm. But before you start writing down this amount and saying, okay, so this is exactly how much I need to farm 1 acre, don't do that. These are my actual figures. Your own cost can be lower or higher depending on where you are, the variety of tomato you choose, how much you negotiate labor, your access to water, the chemicals you use, and several other things. I'm just showing you what happened on my own farm. So let's start from the beginning. The first thing I had to deal with was the land. For the land, I spent about 100,000 naira to rent 1 acre. Now, land is one of those things where I cannot tell you that this is the price of an acre everywhere. Your location matters. You might find land cheaper. Somebody else might pay more. So don't hear 100,000 naira and assume that you must spend 100,000 on land. That was simply what I paid. To be fair, I paid this amount only once in 2021, and since then, my landlord doesn't care about that rent anymore because of the amount of farm produce I dash his family. So we move. Tomato seeds. And this one is very important because the variety you choose can completely change your cost. For my farm, I used Cobra tomato. The seeds cost me 110,000 naira. Now, before you hear that amount and say, tomato seed is 110,000? Don't misunderstand me. There are different varieties and there are different prices. Some farmers have told me they bought theirs for around 120,000. Some varieties can be around 50,000 to 80,000, and there are also cheaper options. So the amount I spent was because of the particular variety I chose. I chose Cobra. That's what I used, and that's what I'm giving you the actual figure for. Then we had the nursery. I spent roughly nothing there cause sand is free and I already had manure. Now, let's talk about something that I think new farmers need to pay very close attention to: labor. For my labor, I had a quotation of about 150,000. But please, don't take that as a fixed price. There is no universal price that says if you're farming tomatoes, labor must cost 150,000. No, labor can be negotiated depending on where you are, who you are working with, the amount of work involved, and how you negotiate. You could spend less. You could also spend more. So if somebody tells you, I want to start tomato farming, but labor is going to cost me 150,000, I will tell that person, go and negotiate first. Don't just accept the first quotation you're given. Now, let's come to organic manure. This is where I made an important adjustment to the figures because I didn't apply everything at once. I bought 6 bags of organic fertilizer. Each bag was 12,000. So 6 bags came to 72,000. But here's something important. I didn't pour 6 bags into the farm at one time. I applied the manure at 2 different stages. The first application was during transplanting. Then I applied it again when the tomato plants were getting close to fruiting. So when you hear 6 bags, understand why I needed that quantity. It wasn't because I went to the farm one morning and dumped 6 bags of manure there. It was applied at different stages of the crop. Now, let's talk about chemicals. I spent about 37,000, and honestly, somebody might look at that figure and say, only 37,000? How? Let me explain. I've done this before. I'm not the person who walks into an agrochemical shop and starts buying every chemical somebody puts in front of me. That's one mistake I think new farmers can easily make. You hear one person mention one chemical, another person tells you about another one. Then somebody says, you must also buy this one. Before you know it, you've bought 10 different products and spent hundreds of thousands of naira. But something I've learned is that different companies can sell products with the same or very similar active ingredients. The concentration may be different and the products are not automatically interchangeable. So you still need to understand what you are buying and how it should be used. But you don't need to buy 5 different products simply because they have 5 different brand names. For me, Because I already know the products I normally work with, I buy what I actually need. And that's one reason my chemical cost was around 37,000. I'm not saying everybody should spend 37,000. I'm telling you what I spent. Then we have watering. I put approximately 50,000 for watering. Again, your own situation can be completely different. If you have your own water source close to the farm, your cost may be different. If you have to transport water or pay someone to help with watering, your cost can change. So this is another place where location and your farming setup matter. Transportation was around 20,000 for me, and this one is very personal to your situation. If your farm is close to your house, obviously your transportation cost may be very small. But if you are traveling a considerable distance to your farm every time, you need to calculate what transportation is actually costing you. Don't ignore it, because sometimes people calculate the seeds, fertilizer, chemicals, and labor, then forget that they've been spending money going to and coming back from the farm every few days. That money is part of your farming cost too. Then I put 30,000 for miscellaneous expenses, and I'm going to be honest with you, I can't remember every single thing that made up that 30,000 now. I just know that there were other small expenses involved, and I didn't want to pretend they didn't exist simply because I couldn't remember every one of them. So I included an estimated 30,000. Now let's put everything together. Land 100,000, tomato cobra seeds 110,000, labor 150,000, organic fertilizer 72,000, chemicals 36,000, watering 50,000, transportation 20,000, miscellaneous 30,000. When I put all of that together, my total comes to approximately 569,000. So yes, for my particular farm, I spent approximately 569,000 to farm 1 acre of tomatoes. But here's where I don't want you to misunderstand this video. I'm not telling you that you need 569,000 before you can farm tomatoes. I'm telling you this is what I spent. Your own farm could cost you less. For example, you might get cheaper land. You might choose a different tomato variety. You might negotiate cheaper labor. You might already have access to water. You might have equipment that I had to pay for. There are many things that can change that final figure, and that's actually one of the reasons I wanted to make this video. Because when you are planning to enter farming, you need to stop looking at one big number and start asking, where exactly is my money going? That's the question. Because once you understand where your money is going, you can start finding places where you can reduce your cost without destroying your production. And this is something I want to show you throughout this channel. I'm not here to sit down and tell you stories about farming that I found on the internet. I'm showing you what I actually did. I farmed tomatoes, I've bought the seeds, I've prepared the land, I've transplanted, I've dealt with fertilizer, I've dealt with chemicals, I've dealt with watering, I've watched the plants grow, I've seen the problems that come with it. And that's exactly why I want to take you through this journey with me. Because if you're my younger brother or my younger sister and you are telling me I want to go into tomato farming, what do I need to know? I don't want to just tell you go and farm tomatoes. I want to sit you down and say, okay, before you put your money inside this thing, let me show you what you are getting into. So if you're interested in tomato farming, stay with me, because in the next videos, we are going to go much deeper into the things that actually determine whether that money you put into your farm comes back to you or disappears into the soil. And trust me, that's where things get really interesting.